Phyllis was born in a small town in the mountains of West Virginia on October 3, 1935. She was the youngest of 4 children born to John and Bertha Arnett. Her brother John Jr. was the oldest. Next was her sister Anne, then Jack, and then Phyllis. While she was still a teenager, her older brother John had already joined the Air Force, gotten married, and was stationed down in Austin, Texas. Soon after she graduated from high school, she packed up and moved to Austin, Texas to live with her brother John and his new wife Betty. She got a job downtown Austin at Cress's department store. And eventually she moved into a boarding house right near the state capitol. The lady that owned that boarding house would sometimes cater events at the Capitol, hiring Phyllis to help out. This gave her the chance to meet some important people like LBJ. Between Cress's department store and the boarding house where she lived was the Greyhound bus station, where she loved to stop once in a while and have a bowl of their Navy bean soup. On one of those days, this smooth-talking fella sat down next to her and told her how good her soup smelled, so she offered to share it with him. It wasn't long after that Don Wagner took her home to meet his parents. They immediately fell in love with her, and before long they were married. Within a year, Don Wagner Jr. was born. And in 1957, I was born. In 1959, the family moved to Shreveport, Louisiana, and that's where Yvonne was born. They didn't stay in Shreveport very long, though. In 1960, Don Wagner's work took him to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Though Baton Rouge would be home for Phyllis for the rest of her life, her heart was always in West Virginia. It wasn't just her love for her mom or her dad or her grandmother that kept her going back. She also had a very deep love for West Virginia itself. Her love for West Virginia was contagious. The whole family considered West Virginia to be a magical place to visit. Her parents were avid gardeners, and that's something they managed to pass on to Phyllis, her 2 brothers, and her sister. For most of the 60s, Don was busy with a weekly TV show about snakes. Phyllis became busy in gardening. After years of winning awards for her gardening skills, she went on to become the president of the Baton Rouge Garden Club. Those were some fun years for Don and Phyllis. It was like they were competing with each other's accomplishments. Now Don, who was very passionate about chess, became the president of the Baton Rouge Chess Club. And here you can see Phyllis sitting with Bobby Fischer when he spent 2 weeks at her house. A few years later, he made history when he went on to take the title of World Chess Champion. Phyllis had taken a course on journalism when she was in high school. That, combined with the fact that she was the president of the Baton Rouge Garden Club, led to her writing a weekly column on gardening in the North Baton Rouge Journal. Overnight, she went from writing a single column to diving into the newspaper business, where she was working with national and local political leaders. In 1969, she began writing the single column. By 1973, she was named managing editor of the whole newspaper. Being a newspaper editor gave her a lot of influence over the community, and this made every elected official want to be her friend. She was invited to a lot of their parties, and she was also invited to become part of many of their community projects. Phyllis was devastated when her father died in 1978.
My God, Phyllis, my hair like it is.
At every opportunity, she went back to West Virginia to see her mother, her brothers, and her sister. In the 70s, Don and Phyllis Wagner drifted apart and eventually divorced. In the early 80s, she remarried Robert Myers. That's when she bought her place in Zachary on 2 acres, where she spent the rest of her life. In 1976, at the age of 18, her son Larry joined the Air Force and moved up to the Seattle area. In the same way that Phyllis did, when her daughter Yvonne graduated from high school, she up and moved away to join her brother who had joined the Air Force. 5 years later, Yvonne became a single mom. Not long after that, she decided to move back to Louisiana to raise her son near her mother. Her son Larry had given her grandchildren, but they lived way across the country in Seattle, so she was thrilled when Yvonne came home to raise her son Jared.
Get the lift there.
Sure, don't be grouchy if you want him to.
You have $20. Don't be bugging me for it.
Oh boy, aren't you
Good.
He does.
Phyllis and her sister Ann shared a love for collecting glass baskets. They may have lived nearly 1,000 miles apart, but they were on the phone or online every day shopping and comparing. Unexpectedly, Ann discovered she had leukemia, and it wasn't very long at all before it claimed her life. This is something that Phyllis had a very tough time with. Eventually, Phyllis's mom was unable to care for herself at home, so the family arranged for her to live at a nursing home in St. Martinsville, West Virginia. At the age of 70, Phyllis retired from the newspaper, which gave her all the time that she needed to spend with her mom. The last thing that she expected was in October of 2006, she learned that she herself only had a few months left to live, and that her mother would outlive her. Every year, her family had a huge reunion in West Virginia. She spent the 2006 reunion visiting with the friends and family that were important to her. She stayed at the house where she grew up, and she slept in the bed that she slept in as a little girl. She said that even if it cost her a little extra life, that trip was certainly worth it to her. The doctors said she had pancreatic cancer, and they only gave her 6 months to live. She was able to spend Thanksgiving and Christmas with her son and daughter, but that 6 months went by quickly. She spent the last 2 months of her life at Yvonne's house in Zachary. Her brother Jack, his first wife Marie, and his second wife Linda all flew down together to spend 2 weeks with her in that final month. When Phyllis and Jack were growing up as kids in the mountains of West Virginia, they were 2 peas in a pod. She had been fading, but once they arrived, she rebounded with a strength that allowed her to fully enjoy their company. Phyllis passed away February 20th, 2007, Mardi Gras Day. The newspaper chain that she had retired from 2 years before ran front-page stories on 3 other papers talking about her life, her contributions to the community, the newspaper, and of her passing. Phyllis, you've touched so many lives and helped so many people. You will always be loved and certainly be missed.